It's 5 o'clock, October 24th, 2023. Special Plan Commission meeting, City of Franklin. Mayor, could you please take the roll?
Mayor Nelson?
Here.
Commissioner Hogan?
Here.
Commissioner Bailey?
Here.
City Engineer Morrow?
Here.
Alderwoman Day?
Here.
Commissioner Leon is excused.
We have a quorum. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, moving on to B, we do not have any minutes. Moving on to C, we are going on to a continuation of a public hearing. Anything else to add to that, Mr. City Attorney? I reopen it? I'd like to reopen the public hearing at this time. Any citizen wishing to make comment, please approach the podium. State your name and address for the record. Seeing nobody approaching the podium, we will now close citizen comment on the public hearing. Moving on to discussion. Marion?
Thank you, Mayor. So I will briefly canvass the purpose of this application since we weren't able to directly discuss the item at our previous meeting. So as we've already reviewed the CARMA, the applicants are present. They are here requesting approvals pertaining to the development of a toiletries or cosmetics facility at the corner of 76th and Ryan. Pursuant to that, they have requested this rezoning, a land division certified survey map that the commission has already recommended approval of, a special use application to allow for overnight parking that the commission has already recommended approval of, and a site plan for the factory itself, which the commission has already approved, subject to the condition that this rezoning later be approved by Common Council. So briefly to canvass the pertinent facts. So when rezoning a property, it's important to consider a few factors that are required under the ordinances of the city. This is a public hearing which was continued from the October 19th meeting, 2023, due to the incomplete agenda description, and that hearing is now closed. So when rezoning a property, you have to consider primarily the future land use. So there is a requirement that zoning be in accordance with this map, which is a part of the comprehensive master plan. The property is located in an area that is has a future land use of commercial and natural resources. So the black arrow is pointing to the area within the white square. This is the land under discussion currently. There is a natural resource area here. It does not align with the location of natural resources, and in general, natural resources on this map means you should be aware that there are natural resources and determine exactly where they are when developing, but it does not preclude development. So in this case, that commercial land use is the true use of the property. It's worth noting that the current location for most of CARMA's facilities is also in a commercial land use in the Franklin Business Park. So that being said, they are requesting to rezone the property. It is currently zoned R8 multifamily residential. So I will note the zoning and uses of the surrounding properties. So to the east, the zoning here is agricultural, and the House of Corrections is seated on a split zoning of institutional. To the north is P1 Parkland. R5 is a higher density residential zoning district. R3 is a lower density for single family residential. B3 allows for business types that have more of a regional character or auto oriented. There is currently M1 zoning kitty corner from the current lands being discussed, and then again R8 zoning immediately to the south. The C1 zoning that you see on the map actually no longer exists in the text of our ordinances, so it's not present on this property, but in the past this was used to denote the presence of natural resources as well, since that's something the community prioritizes. So a rezoning is necessary to allow for the business type requested by the applicants. You wouldn't be able to put a factory in residential zoning. And also because there is what's called split lot zoning. Currently, there are only 2 lots here, but the boundaries of the zoning actually cross over those lots, and that is generally not allowed. It's something that we would require any developer to revise here. In terms of the lands that they're proposing to rezone, the current zoning of these lots are R8 and B3. The applicant is proposing to rezone the new Lot 1 of the certified survey map that we have previously discussed from R8 to M1. So it's the gray area on this proposed land division. And the other 2 lots, which are currently zoned R8, Lot 2 here is just zoned R8, and Lot 3 is zoned R8 and B3. They're proposing to consolidate this zoning as B3 to allow for commercial development in the future. The applicant is required to provide landscape buffer yards on property lines adjacent to parcels with different zoning. So we discussed that a little bit during the development review process earlier. But specifically along this north property line is where much of that buffering will be required. And due to some of the constraints with these properties related to the land division and related to the location of entrances, there's a discussion of cross access. The zoning doesn't require that for M1, but for B3 it is generally recommended. So there are a few things to note based on the future land use, which we've already discussed. It is important to know what categories of uses are allowed in M1 zoning. So in your packet, you should have received a copy of the current, what we call these the district standard sheets. These are what are distributed to the public when they're discussing the potential uses for a property. And there is a table on the back. So you have the general description of the district, a table of the dimensions, and then this very involved table lists standard industrial codes or SIC codes of uses that are either permitted or special uses in the district. So everything with a P is a permitted use. What that means is that a business type that is listed as a P can approach the city and in this zoning district file a zoning compliance request, and if it fits within that category of P groups, receive approval of their use. There may be conditions based on a previous special use approval or site-specific conditions, but in general, it's an administrative approval. The applicant's business type is a permitted use in this district. The special use was specific to the truck parking. If something has an S next to it, that requires the additional level of review of a special use. Other communities refer to those as conditional uses. A special use or conditional use requires a Class 2 public hearing notice, so the public hearing that, similar to what we're doing today and did at the previous meeting for their truck parking special use. And also, so it requires the Class 2 public hearing notice, and it requires Common Council approval. So it is something that per Act 67, which is a recent, no longer that recent, but a recent act of the state of Wisconsin legislature, a use that is allowed as a special use isn't allowed use in the district. So if a community wants to deny that use, that is not a possibility, but they can impose conditions specific to the nature of the use. And if that person that is applying for the request does not meet those conditions or is not able to meet those conditions, then a denial is feasible, but in general, even a special use is still allowed. So it's something to keep in mind. That's the case across all zoning districts that this table applies. There is a table in residential districts as well, although in general, is it single family or not? And in R8 zoning, all development requires a special use anyway. But that's something to know. So what else did I want to say about this? So today you are making a recommendation to Common Council about the commission's views on this rezoning application. So we've discussed the development a little bit previously, but this is a significant decision to rezone this parcel. This will be relocating 310 jobs from the existing Franklin Business Park to consolidate and retain Karma Labs here in Franklin. We've talked about the special use versus permitted use. This location has some advantages and disadvantages, which are also incumbent on the applicant to think about in terms of truck access, et cetera. And then I do think it's important to note that this parcel is currently zoned R8 multifamily. The future land use map does have some locations that are vacant and allow for future development of multifamily residential, but it is one of the largest vacant lots that allows for that. So we would be taking about 40 acres off the table for residential development of that type. So, yep. If there are other questions about this, I'm happy to revisit some of the questions from previously, but only in as much as they have a bearing on this. The other applications that you've already discussed are contingent on this approval. So it's not possible for them to develop this particular business use in this location without approval of the rezoning. So, any questions?
Oh, Marion, thank you very much. Very diligent and very explanation. I'd like to open it up now to the commission if they've got questions. Alderwoman Day?
I have one, and it's not necessarily on switching from R8 to M1 for the bulk of the property, but for the B3 property on the bottom. Is it your opinion, Marion, that having that zoned as B3 will allow a wide enough scope of future development that those properties will still remain desirable given their location in that particular type of zoning? Or do you think that in the future we would need to revisit this to potentially rezone that area again?
There are some things to take into consideration that I didn't touch on directly, but the short answer is yes. B3 does allow for kind of a broad scope of commercial development, including office uses, which I think this might become a desirable location for as well. The property across the street is currently zoned R8, but previous concept reviews of this area have discussed a possible B3 use category, and then we generally don't recommend what's called spot zoning. So we recommend that zoning be consistent with the neighboring zoning. So if we take a step back to look at the existing zoning on the site, and in fact, the zoning, I'm sorry, I did cut it off here, but the zoning immediately to the west is B3.
Okay.
So it creates a consistent strip of B3 uses along here. As we've been looking at some of the potential changes, this area, so it was staff's recommendation that B3 be the zoning selected for this site. As this area is part of the proposed tax increment district, this area will probably change, and the zoning on some of these parcels may change, but this is most consistent with the future land use, so.
And the map there, the box on the lower right that's the R8 there, that's that property that has the single family home on it right now, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Currently, this has a single-family home. We have viewed proposals to develop this either as a PDD or under the R8 standards. So,
I just wanted to make sure it was included because sometimes we had maps that had it and some that didn't, but okay.
yeah, it's not currently proposed to be rezoned. This is held by someone else. So, yep.
Mr. City Engineer?
So to help answer that question, I will tell you that almost every developer that's come in since post-COVID has bemoaned the fact that business, commercial is just not going well right now, but it's got to turn around because the state will tell you this is one of the busiest state routes in the area, and it gets a lot of traffic. So as soon as we come out of this funk for business, commercial, it's going to pop.
Thank you. Anyone else has any comments on this? Okay, is there a revised motion, Mr. City Attorney or Marion? I have the motion here, but any revisions to it?
The motion as drafted includes language that makes this approval contingent on a recording of the CSM certified survey map, or approval and recording of the related certified survey map, because we're not able to actually stipulate what lot until that occurs. So that's the procedure. So I will be reading a blank if you want me to read the motion.
I would request you to read the entire motion, please.
Is this okay, City Attorney? It's the language you proposed.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. A motion to recommend approval of an ordinance to amend the Unified Development Ordinance parentheses zoning map to rezone Lot 1 of CSM Certified Survey Map number to be determined from R8 Multifamily Residence District and B3 Community Business District to M1 Limited Industrial District, and lots 2 and 3 of Certified Survey Map number to be determined to B3 Community Business District, the approval and passage of which is contingent upon the approval and recording of the related Certified Survey Map. Property located at 9410 South 76th Street and 7520 West Ryan Road by Alex Scheller, Karma Laboratories.
Well done.
Applicant, Karma Laboratories property owner.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a first.
Second?
We've got a second. Hearing no further discussion, could we do a roll call vote, please?
Yep, one moment. So Commissioner Hogan, motion, Commissioner Haley, second. Mayor, are you voting?
I need to.
No. Okay. Commissioner Hogan,
Aye.
Commissioner Haley,
Aye.
City Engineer Morrow,
Aye.
Alderwoman Day.
Aye.
It does not appear you need to vote.
4 ayes, no noes, motion passes. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
We have a first and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Can you do your magic?